Welcome to Supplement School. Today's lesson, glutamine. I am Dr. Chris Lockwood, owner and CEO of AP Nutrition. Some call glutamine a bodybuilding staple, others say it doesn't live up to the hype. Curious about who's right and what it means for you? Then stick around, class is in session. Glutamine is the most abundant free alpha amino acid in your body. On average, it constitutes a little more than 5% of the amino acids found in animal-derived protein sources. Modest as that might seem, glutamine is critically important to a number of bodily functions and processes. Technically speaking, glutamine is the amide of the essential amino acid glutamate, or glutamic acid. As amino acids are broken down, they yield a nitrogen-containing molecule called ammonia. This otherwise toxic but crucial molecule can bind with glutamate to form glutamine. Glutamine can also be broken down and resynthesize glutamate, which makes glutamine a critical source of ammonia and nitrogen. Think of glutamine as kind of a nitrogen sponge. It mops up ammonia and shuttles nitrogen between tissues. In fact, it's been reported that some 30 to 35% of all nitrogen derived from protein breakdown is transported in the form of glutamine. Strange as it may seem, glutamine is a conditionally essential amino acid, not essential. In other words, you only need to consume dietary sources of glutamine under certain circumstances. Internal levels of this amino acid depend on various factors. Pregnancy and lactation significantly deplete the body's glutamine stores, as do exhaustive exercise, illness, disease, starvation or fasting, rapid growth and development, and other conditions of extreme physiological stress. Glutamine, like other alpha amino acids, is involved in regulating protein synthesis and breakdown. However, there's far more to it than that. Glutamine significantly affects BCAA metabolism, gut barrier maintenance and normal immune function, glucose formation, water transport, and neurotransmission, just to name a few. Skeletal muscle is the production site for approximately 70% of daily glutamine, and plasma carries nitrogen to other tissues in your body. While you produce the majority of daily glutamine in your skeletal muscles, the small intestine, kidneys, and white blood cells are the most dominant sites of glutamine usage. This isn't to say that glutamine doesn't affect muscle and performance, though. Glutamine supplementation, however, might not produce any physique or performance benefits without the presence of other factors involved. In other words, glutamine alone might not be terribly effective, but it can be useful if other conditions are met. For example, your kidneys are a primary site of glutamine use because the ammonia that's cleaved from glutamine to maintain your body's acid-base balance. As metabolic acidosis increases, as in response to intense training or a high-protein diet, skeletal muscle and plasma glutamine levels are reduced significantly, while renal uptake of glutamine is dramatically increased. In fact, in response to just 4 days of a high-protein, high-fat diet, skeletal muscle and plasma glutamine has been shown to decline by approximately 25%. Supplemental glutamine might help restore the missing muscle glutamine. Under mild dehydration, supplemental glutamine, when combined with a glucose and electrolyte beverage, can increase exercise performance and enhance fluid and electrolyte uptake. Supplementation has also shown an increase in growth hormone in response to cycling to exhaustion. Extracellular concentrations of glutamine have also been shown to activate the mTOR signaling pathway, which is responsible for increasing muscle size. But here again, the benefits of glutamine supplementation require that other conditions be met. In this case, mTOR signaling appeared to require the presence of branching amino acids, leucine most importantly, as well as some threshold level of cellular hydration. As earlier discussed, despite the various roles, there's little evidence that glutamine supplementation will directly result in increased muscle mass, reduced body fat, or gains in muscle strength or power. However, as mentioned, it may just be that glutamine alone isn't adequate and other supplements must be taken concurrently. For example, there was a non-significant trend towards greater gains in body mass and lean body mass in collegiate track and field athletes that consumed 4 grams of glutamine per day along with a loading and maintenance dose of creatine versus creatine alone for 8 weeks. This means supplementing creatine with glutamine resulted in better gains than creatine alone. Whether higher doses or a longer study would have resulted in significant differences between the groups is anybody's guess. There are 6 choices I recommend stacking glutamine with. First is sodium and other electrolytes. Glutamine transport occurs via a sodium-dependent mechanism. It's been shown to significantly increase cell volume, electrolyte absorption, and hydration. This might be helpful for both endurance and physique athletes. For the physique athlete, cell water volume is one of the many aspects of muscle hypertrophy. Significant decreases in cell water volume can inhibit mTOR signaling, which is crucial to building muscle. Next, I recommend BCAAs. There are two main reasons why combining BCAAs and glutamine may promote greater gains in muscle mass and performance. One, ammonia concentrations, and therefore glutamine directly affects BCAA metabolism. And two, mTOR signaling from extracellular glutamine first requires the uptake of BCAAs. Also, I suggest cysteine, glycine, or a cysteine donor. Glutamine's ability to synthesize the antioxidant glutathione requires two other amino acids, cysteine and glycine. It's possible, however, that a cysteine donor such as N-acetylcysteine or a sulfur-containing amino acid such as methionine could be used instead of cysteine. Another choice would be citrulline. Glutamine functions as a precursor for arginine and nitric oxide synthesis by transporting citrulline between tissues. Using glutamine with citrulline might boost citrulline's ability to stimulate the production of nitric oxide, which might lead to better oxygen delivery and nutrient transport to skeletal muscle. More nutrients to the muscle might translate to better recovery and growth. Another recommendation is alpha-ketoglutarate. AKG, like glutamine, serves as a precursor to glutamate and has been shown to dose-dependently spare glutamine degradation and increase mTOR signaling pathways as well as glutathione. This means that glutamine, taken with AKG, might boost the potential for muscle growth and the production of glutathione, a powerful antioxidant. Finally, there's glucose, or N-acetylglucosamine. Glucose deprivation reduces glutamine uptake and negatively affects cell growth and survival. However, if you're on a low-carb diet, it appears that the glycoprotein N-acetylglucosamine might be able to restore glutamine uptake and metabolism. Other than your stack, the most important thing to consider when selecting a glutamine product is the delivery system. If you're purchasing a powder, capsule, or tablet, then free-form L-glutamine works well. However, because glutamine is quite unstable, avoid ready-to-drink beverages or protein bars claiming to contain supplemental L-glutamine. Instead, RTDs and bars should use the peptide-bound forms of glutamine, such as L-alanyl-glutamine, glycyl L-glutamine hydrate, or an ingredient listed as glutamine peptide. Just remember that the glutamine concentration of one of these peptide forms is typically around 65 to 70%. In other words, there's only about 6.5 to 7 grams of glutamine per 10 grams of glutamine peptide, so dose accordingly. Regardless of the form, up to 90% of ingested glutamine is eliminated during first pass. In other words, a mere fraction of the glutamine you consume will make it beyond your liver, with the majority of the glutamine you consume being eliminated within the digestive enterocytes and immune cells present within your gut. It's worth noting, by the way, that you're probably wasting your money if you buy a product that contains alpha-ketoisocaprial glutamine or acetyl L-glutamine, not to be confused with N-acetylglucosamine. Both the acylated and the AKIC forms might be quite stable, but the existing evidence suggests that they're both poor delivery forms of glutamine. It appears that the daily intake of supplemental glutamine needs to be very high, at least 20 to 30 grams a day, consumed chronically and frequently. To provide some perspective, consider that it requires a constant intravenous infusion of between 20 to 30 grams of glutamine per day to normalize plasma concentrations of glutamine in critically ill patients. Here's the rub though, the bioavailability of infused glutamine is 100%. It's no more than about 30% from orally consumed glutamine. Thus, I recommend up to 30 grams of glutamine per day. On training days, I recommend consuming as much as 10 grams 30 to 90 minutes prior to exercise, during exercise, and within 90 minutes of exercise completion. That's 30 grams total. You can reduce the exercise-specific dosing if you consume 5 grams of glutamine every 2 to 3 hours leading up to and following exercise. On non-training days, I recommend consuming at least 5 grams of glutamine every 2 to 3 waking hours, consuming glutamine in divided doses throughout the day, preferably with meals or snacks that contain carbohydrates to support glucose utilization. There appears to be no need to cycle glutamine, and instead, more evidence supports the need to chronically ingest glutamine during periods of extreme physiological stress. Considerable data supports no adverse reactions to glutamine doses as high as approximately 30 grams per day. In fact, a recent 13-week toxicity study concluded that the no observed adverse effect level for L-glutamine occurred at the highest daily dose provided to the male and female rats. In a human, this dose equates to roughly 0.308 grams of glutamine per pound of body mass per day. So for a 170-pound adult, that's a little more than 52 grams of glutamine per day. Again, this dose was shown to result in an extremely high level of safety with no documented adverse effects. So what's the verdict? Yes, glutamine is a key player in a whole host of functions and dramatically impact your ability to achieve your overall health and fitness goals. However, if you're depending solely upon glutamine or aren't using enough, you may be disappointed. In other words, maximizing glutamine's effects on your body means using your head first. Translating supplements into real results.